Team Vector.
What's up, Aces? I'm Professor Mimi, and we've got a guest for you guys today. We've got Rhys, and introduce yourself, guest.
Jonathan. Hey, guys. Pleasure to be here.
It is wonderful to have you, Jonathan, and we have a
Great to have you, buddy.
very special episode today. ChaosBreakerDragon has come out, and this has been a boogeyman in the community for a long time. Like, the conversation for months has been, this card is definitely coming out, or no, it's impossible for this card to come out, or it's going to come back and it's not going to lock things or whatever, but here it is, and I guess we should read the card before we talk about it, so everybody's on the same page. The Big Daddy himself, Starvader ChaosBreakerDragon, reads, Continuous Vanguard Rearguard during your turn. If your opponent has a locked card, this unit gets power plus 10,000. Act Vanguard once a turn. Cost Counterblast 1. Your opponent gets an imaginary gift, Force. You choose one of your opponent's rear guards and lock it. And finally, Auto Vanguard. When your opponent's locked card is unlocked, cost Soul Blast. Retire one of those unlocked units. You draw a card. Your opponent removes a total of 2 gift markers from his or her circles, or protect from his or her hand, and you get an imaginary gift Force for each marker or protect removed. That's a lot to take in, right?
Well, let's start off by pointing out the positive here. It doesn't get a gift, so it's not going to create that inherently unfair feeling thing that we get from Luard, you know?
Yeah, where they just have like a bunch of gifts and you can't, like, they get 5 gifts on turn 2 and you're like, what? Why don't I have 5 gifts? I'm jealous. I have 1, please.
Yeah, so it's like not getting that gift on Chaos kind of balances out the fact that it does destroy your opponent's gifts. So I think that was good balancing on Bushiroad's part, and it's honestly been a little while since I've been able to say that.
Yeah, I didn't even notice he was missing the gift my first time through.
Yeah, that's initially why when I read the ability, I hadn't even fully woken up yet, and I initially was like, what is this? And then I saw the card, and I was like, oh, no gift. Okay.
Yeah, because
balance.
Like your opponent
Finally.
rides to grade 3, they get a gift, and then you ride, and then you don't get a gift, and then you give them 1, and then you delete both of theirs, and now you have 2 gifts, and they have 0 gifts. How the tables have turned. And then on their turn, they
of fortune.
get 3, and then on your turn, you have 4 to their 0 again. So if your opponent doesn't have a way to generate extra gifts, they kind of can't get any against Chaos, which I guess is kind of making Chaosbreaker like the new gatekeeper of the meta, I guess, right? Because like if you can generate multiple gifts and take down Chaosbreaker, then you're fine. But if you can't and you only ever generate that 1 Excel gift and you like really need it for something, or I guess most Protect decks are kind of struggling right now anyway. But Force decks that just get that like 1, like Spikes, I guess, they get that 1 Force 2 gift that they pass around, and if they lose it, and they're kind of in a hot mess, you know? So the meta is probably going to end up being like, if you can deal with Chaosbreaker, then you're going to stick around, and then if you can't, you're probably going to get phased out. That's what I feel like anyway.
The thing is, it's not just, as far as Protect clans go, one thing that I was looking at and discussing with another friend was this potentially could make Shiranui viable as a counter to it. I mean, on top of being like a force counter in Protect period, it's just a simple fact that you can ride into Shiranui, Superior ride into Oboro, and you have 2 Protect markers. They go and give you a force marker. You could end up potentially screwing them over for doing so by just ditching both of your Protect markers and keeping the force marker to make your numbers make sense.
That could be useful. It depends on how the early game was going though, but they're probably playing slow, so you're probably at a low damage count. So
Yep.
You could probably get away with that.
So Shiranui might be seeing a little bit more play in a post-Chaosbreaker format.
See, that's what I
would
mean.
say...
Multiple gifts, right?
Well, yeah, only because it does do that. Although I would say that if you can't at least do the Superior Ride 2 turns in a row, you might be in for some trouble, you know?
Yeah, you might have to start out
It's-
slow and not do it, because if you run out of steam against them, they'll probably take that and use it to finish
You
off.
have to find the opportunity to go for the double Protect gift, and then start using the Force gift they gave you to your advantage.
I guess the earlier you do that, the better, but you kind of also need the protect. Wait, because oh, it is an act skill.
I would say
Oh no, it's an
superior
auto
decks
skill. The unlock.
have
So
the
if
best
you
chance.
if you used the protect, so if you removed the force gift and your protect gift, and then you perfect guarded their column with the bajillion force gifts, they actually can't get rid of any of your gifts because, well, I guess they can. The force
If
gift
you
goes
get
away
rid of
after,
both
right?
of the protect gifts, you keep the force gift and you use it offensively against them because you can just generate your protect gifts again.
Yeah.
And with the draw power that Shiranui has access to, you'll probably already have a regular perfect guard in your hand.
Yeah, I suppose you have to, with the way that it works at the end of the turn, it prevents you from using the protect gifts the first time through, though, which is, or I guess ever if you want to keep, well, no, you can use one every time you rewrite after you keep that first gift, because you gain one from them.
Other decks that might not have too much trouble are decks that make multiple use of singular gifts. In that case, I would be referring to Dragonic Overlord the Cross, which is kind of like fading into obscurity in the sense where it's not popular anymore, but it's still very much viable, especially going first, because it could just flat out steal the game.
Oh, yeah.
In the Chaos matchup, if you go first, you pretty much have it easy because you could just outright finish them on turn 3, as is usually the Dodex's player's goal. But just the simple fact that you get anywhere from 2 to 3 uses off of a single force marker makes the fact that it gets rid of that many gifts irrelevant. You would just probably end up holding a copy of the cross in your hand to rewrite after you lose your force gift.
Yeah.
And then we're back to 0 because they're not gaining as many gifts.
Nope. That's true. They only get their one force gift a turn from the auto skill, which only works if they have counterblast. And I guess if you counterblast, deny them because they were using counterblast in their deck for something else, you could pop off. The only other thing I guess they would be using their counterblast on is that grade 2 that was revealed the other day. The only other card that was revealed that locks things. Where is it? Here it is. Just in case anybody missed it, they revealed the only other card that locks things, which is Bisection, Starvader, Zirconium. Auto, Vanguard, Rearguard when placed. If you have a Starvader Vanguard, which is Chaos, or I guess this guy, and it could be your grade 1, I guess, but I don't know how the heck you manage that. You get to counterblast 1, look at the top card of your opponent's deck, and put it to an empty rearguard circle locked. If the locked card is in the back row, you get to draw a card, and you get plus 10,000 power on this guy. And then continuous rearguard. If your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, and they have a locked card, the original critical of your Vanguard becomes 2, meaning you get to be a Force 1 deck. If anybody was confused about which one they're going to get. Yeah, it's quite the good piece, but they can only run 4 of that and only 4 Chaos Breakers, so there's only 8 truly. Well, I guess they're probably gonna end up using their new grade 1, which I guess we should read for posterity's sake, right? Starvader Craven Claw. Auto Vanguard Rearguard when it's attack or the attack hit boosted hits of Vanguard, look at 5 cards from the top of your deck, reveal up to 1 Starvader and its card name from among them, put it into your hand and shuffle your deck. That's 12 targets, you're gonna hit this like 70-ish% of the time off the top of my head. Act Rearguard, if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, cost, put this into your soul. Choose one of your opponent's locked cards and unlock it. If you unlocked a card, choose one of your opponent's rearguards other than the locked unit, or the unlocked unit, and lock it. Which is cool, lets you, if they, for some reason, like, played you and they restructured their board around something, you can get around it. But that skill will probably not be as useful as it appears. You don't really need to go minus. You're probably locking the correct card in the first place, right? Unless I guess
if you take into account
the grade
that
2 does that, I guess.
Well, if you take into account that Chaos Breaker itself, the retire effect, if I recall correctly, is not a once per turn when it unlocks.
Oh, I suppose it's not. I guess I was used to the old one being a hard once per turn. Yeah, I guess they would. No, actually, but it just puts me on sus because I think it goes on standby 1 time because it's when your opponent's locked cards is unlocked, which only triggers once. So the skill would only go on standby 1 time, and that's why it says Soul Blast when retire. That is tricky. Because I suppose it could be when your opponent's locked
Yeah,
card is
you'll
unlocked. Because if they unlock
and then
3,
you'll lock, and then you resolve Chaos Breaker.
yeah, I think it would trigger twice actually. So I guess if you get if you use that and the grade 2, then you would get to pop off both. But luckily you can't really. Well, I guess you could lock 3 if you got multiples of the grade 2. But I guess you wouldn't really want to triangle lock people. That would be kind of silly. A bit of a waste.
Front row is where it's at now.
Yeah, it's like as much as locking a back row unit could be sick, because they might end up putting all the force markers in their Vanguard and then on their Vanguard booster at some point too, just for maximum memes to try and make you lock it. But I think that's just messing around.
See, Terra Nui is a deck that can actually do something like that because of the domination token.
Yeah.
Or a force marker on the back row, clone anything, and it gets a drive check. Ridiculous.
Yeah, not bad at all.
Hey, Rhys, I just thought of something, and then I can't believe because I remember I brought it up to you yesterday about just different deck options with when this card gets introduced, and I just had a huge light bulb just hit. So I thought it was Chaos Breaker with the combination of the grade 1 that unlocks and relocks to essentially trigger the effect of Chaos more than once in a turn.
Duh. Why was you guys just said that? How is that going over my head?
I realized how you apply that perfectly against a specific matchup, and it's 2 in particular. Well, I don't know about Luard. One of them is Luard, but that was in the sense of when before the old Endless, when it was able to stack a lot of force markers. And I realized the other matchup is more or less Majesty Lord Blaster if they ever return any units on board, because they accumulate so many force markers without having to commit. So you basically negate all the force markers that you get every other turn.
Well, they still have to commit because they have to soul charge 2 of their rear guards when it attacks. So but it's a matter of that matchup is they can't afford to commit other cards on the board, otherwise you can get the grade 3 and 1 effect off. Because imagine a scenario where they've done 2 turns of that effect. Let's say you ride Majesty Lord, you get a force marker. You put 2 units in, that's 3 markers. Let's say they do it again, it's 5 markers. If there's a point in the game where they have 1 or of 2 units in the back or whatever, they're trying to push, and for some reason you survive, or there's a weird board state where you survive, then it's your turn. 2 locked units, you lock 1, you unlock and relock, you trigger 1, you nuke 2 force markers, and then at the end of the turn you do it again. You just took 4 of the 5 force markers on the following turn if they commit on the board. So essentially, if they have something else committed other than all the force markers on the Vanguard, they get punished by it super hard, and it basically negates all the power they accumulated on Majesty Lord. So all they've done is basically just waste cards to the soul.
That's pretty good, and they might need to actually keep their extra. Well, I guess they always keep the extra MLBs.
The counter. Well, yeah, they will, but you also have to factor in that even if that happens and you completely destroy their offense, they still have better defense than you because they'll be sitting on an 18k base, and they still get triple drive.
The triple drive is kind of annoying for you, I guess, huh?
Yeah, the triple drive will get obnoxious in a very short span of time. If they get it on their first ride with MLB, which is what most decks should be designed to do, it will very likely snowball to be something out of control.
Yeah, but if the MLB player is taking it slow and not pushing you, you should be able to push them,
Yeah, but I don't think I'll see many MLB players in a matchup that won't push.
Yeah, they are. They know they're the aggressor in the matchup, of course.
Yeah, their goal is before they have literally no resources.
Ooh,
so,
looks like you were cutting out.
With that being, sorry, I walked a little far away from my computer.
You're good.
But they're not gonna want themselves in a position where they have 0 resources. So they're gonna push so that, they'll have the counterblast and the resources to get their skills off. They only have but so much soul. So they'll need to make sure they have a way to rebuild soul outside of just riding, as far as the Chaos Breaker player goes.
Yeah, that's true. And speaking of
which, does help with that.
It does, because it goes.
But it only replaces one of your retires,
which you're immediately using. It's kind of like just to pay for, and it's like a Chaos Breaker activation on legs.
The cost trade. It's like the same thing I do in Dodex with Decot and Calamity Tower.
Yeah, basically.
I'll set up, I'll Soul Blast, go into the end, use the Cot skill, Soul Blast for the Cot, and then drop. Then I would drop Toward Cannon in air mode to just get my cost back and draw 2 cards to replace them.
Yeah,
that's like a standard play I make.
I suppose it's not precisely the same, but I see what you mean. Yeah, it's not precisely an activation on legs because it isn't. Well, actually, maybe it is because it. And never mind. We're getting a little. I'm getting distracted. My brain is trying to process it, and there's like an error in there somewhere.
Overall, I really.
Oh, that's what I was going to say.
Do like the design of ChaosBreaker.
It's a great design. Like look at it.
It is a great design. I think the smartest thing
to take it away. It's the lore.
And you know what's crazy is that like I imagined myself, not myself, but I just imagined that Bushiroad had like thought about it and then the last second took away its gift.
Yeah, they're like,
I feel like this card originally had a gift and then they were like, wait a minute.
Probably
for the better that we don't do this.
I'm very grateful. But I remember what I was going to go off to next. It was, what the heck, because ChaosBreaker needs Soul Engine, right? So, what the heck do you play with the rest of the cards? We know 12 cards are there, 33 choices. What are the other 21, I guess? Like, are you playing Messiahs, Deleters? Where's your Soul Charge engine coming from? What's your backup boss? Do you run one?
And that's the thing. Like I think it's just so fresh that people are keeping mum about it until they have like their quote-unquote broken build. And then we'll probably see a resurgence of like Link Joker players that we haven't seen since what was that? 9? Silver Displays was set 8 or set 9?
Silver Blaze was set 9, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. But it'll be like I don't think it's gonna be as bad as the last ChaosBreaker meta. Last ChaosBreaker meta was something else, my goodness. It was, you either played that, you played the X, or you lost. Or not the X, the Purge, I think it was that. I played Bermuda Triangle, and I almost succeeded. I was so fucking close. I whiffed quad drive. I didn't need to hit a crit. I needed to hit anything on my quad drive, and I whiffed it 3 times. I was so upset.
Yikes. Silver Dust was set 8, by the way.
Oh, yeah, I was close.
It's been a while. It's been a good while.
What set are we on now in English? We're on Extra Booster 15 coming out soon. The last set was 12? 11?
That's what. Yeah, set 12.
Yeah.
I got a whole case of that one.
Nice.
Worth it.
That's 5 sets later, it would seem. If my math works for me.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised that some of these decks actually stayed relevant for as long as they did.
Yeah, it's really nice. All the decks from the new season are holding up still, because the new season started with. Well, people want to say that the new season started with the next stage or whatever.
MLB, the next stage in MLB.
I think it was with Silver Dust Blades, though, in my opinion.
I feel like Silver Dust Blades was the first main set of the new season, and I would say that like the next stage and.
Because everything before is kind of like everything after is kind of in the zone.
The last season, maybe.
Sounds about right to me.
Yeah, because everything from next stage isn't really relevant anymore. I mean, Gears might see some play,
especially with that new
that promo.
Yeah, their new stride or whatever. It's not a stride, but you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that might see some play again. I don't really see Neo Nectar or Royals, at least the Altma variant of it, coming back.
Yeah, as long as
Jewel Knights could be interesting,
I guess.
Yeah, Jewel Knights seem like they have potential to be interesting.
Like they'll be fine.
Probably gonna go back and maybe not anything too like meta defining though. I don't know. It's like I thought that this set. This special series,
the clan selection boosters?
Clan selection, yeah, I thought that it would be something a little bit more comparable to the current power level we're at as far as cards go.
I mean, it like kind of is. It is a little. All the cards in here are like sort of pushed, but it's because none of them are their own decks. They're like kind of making a bunch of little quote unquote engines I mean, like, I guess you could call this Chaos Breaker stuff an engine, right? It doesn't fill out a whole deck, but it'll run alongside whatever your deck's trying to do. So I guess if you pair it like with
Most part.
What was that? Sorry.
I said for the most part, yeah.
Yeah. If you pair it with like Messiahs and stuff, you can get some multi-attacks to finish off a game. If you pair it with Deleters, you can get big attacks to finish off a game. And then if you don't win, well, you deleted them, which is helpful, I guess.
Unless they ride. But
yeah. But
the goal is to delete them and then put enough pressure so that they can't do that.
Yeah, because they've been probably rewriting the whole game to not have literally 0 gifts, right? So like you can like if you feel out when they run out of rerides, you can delete them, I guess. But like, I feel like you might be reaching a bit if you're pulling out deleters, because like aren't Messiahs just like better? Oh, but there's a really
I would
good,
say faster.
Yeah, but there's some really good grade 2s like Swift Deleter Gayali is.
Yeah, I still have one of those.
Wait, which is Swift Deleter Galley? Sorry, just like I've lost track of cards after a long time.
That's not the one I was thinking of. Now that I think about it a little closer, I'm thinking of a White Outer Vect. That card is nuts, and I guess you can run that in any engine or in any version. I believe here, there's somewhere in my PC's files. I believe Gayali.
I got it. I just pulled it up.
Okay.
So White Outer Vect, grade 2, 10k, standard fare. It's a triple rare from Light of Salvation, Logic of Destruction.
Yep.
Auto rearguard circle. At the end of the battle that attacked the Vanguard, if your opponent did not call trigger units during that battle, cost counterblast 1, you draw a card, choose one of your opponent's grade 2 or greater cards, and bind it face down.
Oh, that card. That's in my deck somewhere.
And then
It's been such a long time since I played it. Okay, yeah, that's a good card. Yeah,
and then choice. White Outer Vect is auto rearguard at the end of the battle that attacked a Vanguard.
Yeah, that was the one I just said.
Oh wait, I thought you were talking about Gayali.
Nah, Gayali I have.
I thought I heard you say his name before you read it. My bad.
Sorry. Swift Deleter Galley is auto rearguard circle. When placed, if you have more rearguards than your opponent, this unit gets power plus 4k until end of turn. Auto Vanguard rearguard. When this attack hits a Vanguard, cost spell blast 1, choose one of your opponent's rearguards and bind it face down. If you could not bind a rearguard, draw a card. I think that might actually be a pretty good card to play if you're going to play the Deleter build, because it punishes your opponent for trying to play conservatively and looking for, a more explosive turn, because you'll just build up resources and defense by doing that.
Wait, what if we mixed it with Brant? Guys, remember Brant?
Yeah.
That would be
something. I don't know how that would actually go for you, but I guess, right?
Yeah, like I'd have to go back and take a look at if there'd even be enough room to fit the Chaos Engine in there with Brett.
I mean, because like I think in that deck you're running like Gayali and Vex, so like you slot in the new grade 2, and like their grade 1s were probably bad, so you put in their generic grade 3 Searcher and the new guy, and then you take out like the Crossroads for Chaos Breaker, right? And that's like
the Crossroads.
They had a grade 4. It was the same thing, same diff. They were like Brant, whatever, the super one that turns.
Oh, you mean he means Brant. That's he was the backup to the grade 3.
Yeah, it was a grade 4. It was like
Brant Ringer. There we go.
Yeah, that's the one.
Act Vanguard Circle, cost counterblast 1 to the end of your opponent's turn. Your opponent's trigger effects, other than the power increase, change the effects to critical. Your Vanguard gets critical -1 till end of that battle. Heal, deal 1 damage to your Vanguard, and draw, discard a card from your hand. And change the power increase of front triggers to the back row. I've always found Brant to be classically hilarious.
You did say, I thought I heard you say Ringer before you did that, so that was the grade 4, right?
Yeah, that was the grade 4.
That's the one I think you sadly have to cut to make space for Chaos Breaker. But if you were to do that, I mean, I guess it could run 1, but like I guess we should read the other one up, because you have it up. Do you, or get it nearby? I don't have it on my PC over
here.
I
can pull it up.
Wait, do you mean the grade 3 brand?
Yeah, the grade 3 brand.
Yeah, this one is
I know about
Vanguard Circle, Counterblast, Soul Blast 1. And until the end of your opponent's turn, for your opponent's trigger effects other than the power increase, change the effects of critical, your Vanguard gets critical -1, and heal, deal 1 damage to your Vanguard.
So like the
I
only real
mean-
difference is the draws, and it's like who even runs draws?
No, the draws and the fronts
Oh
are
yeah.
different on Ringer.
Oh right. I forgot
And
about
I
the
think if
fronts.
you're playing against an Excel deck, Ringer could be kind of just like to mess with them.
Yeah.
The important part is the critical -1 that regular Brant gives you. That's not something that should be, underestimated.
It's super
Although
useful.
with Force 2 now, all you're going to do is just kind of make sure that you only take 1 damage if they check a crit instead of taking 3.
Yeah, but as soon as they've
which
chosen
is
Force
good.
2, that's in the situation you kind of want them to be in, you know?
Yeah, because then they can't just cascade their power levels.
Exactly, because that's what scares you the most is the Chaos Breaker players, them getting too strong for you to guard. You know, like if you kept giving them those Force gifts and you're playing against Luard, and you gave them like an extra 2 gifts when they were 7, and you deleted 4, and they still have 3 gifts. That's kind of scary, because they multi-attack too.
and
So
It's the same reason that Dodex is kind of scary on Force 1 too, if the pilot knows what they're doing. Because it will get to a point where they just can't guard it, and they're going to be like, I want to perfect guard everything. And then you drop the cot and go, kiss your hand goodbye. Brant is a check to a lot of these, I get power on my own decks
yeah,
that need the extra critical to be relevant. So Brant could be something that might see some play. It might not be like mainstream, but I could see it as a little bit of an anti-meta.
yeah, maybe like
Anti-meta tech.
Yeah, maybe like 3 of the grade 3, and then like 1 of the grade 4 or something like that. And you have like an 8.
You could
top
probably
end.
even get away with 2 and 2.
I guess 'cause the grade 4 doesn't need to be specifically on regular Brant, does it?
Well, I mean, no, it doesn't. No, it doesn't require Brant to be in the soul at all for any of its effects.
Yeah,
So it
this is
just
that,
gives you the option. It's like if you don't get Chaos Breaker, you get Brant, and then you can just give yourself a slightly easier time overall. And then you go into Chaos Breaker, and then once you've broken their spirits with Chaos Breaker, you just go into Brant Ringer, and then you kill any chance of them really coming back.
Pretty much, I like that.
Get them to 4 or 5 damage, go
I
into
wanted
Brant
to-
Ringer, and then you shut them down.
Maybe you go 3-2, and then your top end is looking like 9 cards. That's not terrible.
Not bad either, because it still leaves you room for 12 grade 2s and 12 grade 1s.
Yep.
And I would think that that's perfectly fine numbers. I've played plenty of decks that were 9, 12, 12, and didn't have any problems.
Yeah, we got the new grade 2, Gayali, Vect for the grade 2 lineup that you would run in that deck. It's the standard 8 crit for PG draw for heal. And then you'd run the grade 3 Searcher, the new grade 1, and then something that could soul charge you some way, somehow. I'm not entirely familiar with all of the grade 1s.
One grade 1.
I haven't read all their commons.
Yeah. Well, you'll have 1 soul charger guaranteed because of the Starvader. As a Kagero player, I don't know a whole lot about Link Joker, like the ins and outs. I do own a Link Joker deck that I just don't actually use ever.
Yeah, I feel that.
Let's not talk about it. Let's not talk about that.
No, we won't. Don't worry.
I'm a Kagero stan. I've been playing the game for 9 years. It's been Kagero since day 1, and it's shown me my most consistent successes. So I'm very partial to it. Although Narukami is a close second for being my favorite. I like to ride the lightning, so to
Who
speak.
doesn't? It is like Narukami is like the embodiment of the Vanguard community. It wasn't like it was like worshipped on the Reddit for like years or something. It was kind of silly.
Yeah, it was hilarious.
It was like so bad, but they would never shut up about it. It was great.
Never ever. They just kept going. I'm trying to look through what might be played. So you're going to be playing the
I guess we shouldn't.
the
We
grade
shouldn't.
3 Searcher.
Yeah, that and then the new grade 1. And then that last thing is something that's still charged, but we shouldn't spoil the whole deck building process for them. There has to be something. Because Gayali costs a Soul Blast too, actually, now that I think about it. Maybe you can't run him.
What about?
I feel like if you have to choose between Gayali or Vect might be better, but Vect also does cost a Counterblast too. And if your deck is kind of resource
Well, the
intensive.
good
like
part
this, you might
about
have to skip out
ChaosBreaker
on
is
them.
that ChaosBreaker doesn't really do anything with it.
Yeah,
Let me
but
double check. I can't remember which set it was in.
he
Okay,
doesn't
there we go.
combo explicitly, but he really needs the counterblast. You know, like if you run out of counterblasts, you kind of lose. But I guess your opponent's always going to be giving you some damage.
Yeah, because they want to kill you before you can go off. So all you want to do is just mitigate how much damage they could do.
I suppose you should
But,
be very careful and never leave yourself when you're playing with this deck at 0 damage, or if you using all of your damage to have 0 face-up counterblast. I mean, of course you don't want to be at 0 damage. You need to pay your counterblast costs. But if you run out of counterblast, your opponent could like take just a little turn off, swing at some rear guards here or there, and then oh, you can't lock anything. So then suddenly all their force gifts or whatever get to stay for this next turn, and then you get to smash him.
Yeah. I just can't remember like enough relevant Link Joker rearguard units.
And I guess maybe you do have to go with Messiahs. Actually, maybe they're... I don't think their rear guards cost too many resources. It's been a while since I've played against them. Too bad we don't have any of our... we should have had Alex come on. Alex could have told us all about Link Joker cards. Oh man, I am a fool.
We could always invite him.
Yeah, we can get him for like a follow-up, like the impact of ChaosBreakerDragon. Because I mean, we could honestly talk about this guy for hours and all of his implications. Because I do think he's gonna sort of be like, don't take this the wrong way. He's gonna be like how Geese ended up being in premium, and everybody's like, "What? Geese ruined premium. The whole form." No. Geese was hot trash. It was just a gatekeeper. You know, like if you couldn't beat Geese, you couldn't play. But if you could beat Geese, it was a cakewalk. You know?
Yeah, pretty much.
It was like a binary check. You either could beat Geese and you did beat them every time, or you could not beat Geese and you lost to them 100% of the time. It's just kind of how it was.
Yeah, pretty much.
So I feel like that's what it's
I think you might be right in that it might actually have to be Messiahs.
Yeah,
unless the Cyber Dragon's soul charge, and maybe that's why everybody's doing it.
Maybe, but I haven't familiarized with the V Aries Schwarzschild stuff. That's one time was
gonna
enough
be
for
one
me.
of those things where we're gonna have to just get Alex and go over how to actually build this.
Yeah, I don't know what I was thinking starting this episode without him. I think he's even online too. Oh well.
Yes.
But
yeah, he's online.
Yeah, we were gonna playtest Nubatama. We're gonna do that after this, I guess. So
gotcha.
I'll talk to him about it, and then maybe he'll post his deck list in the comments of the video. He tends to watch our stuff too. Thanks for watching, by the way, Alex.
Much appreciated, friend.
But
yeah, I think I'll be interested. I'll be following this to see like what people come up with.
Yeah,
I think the Starhawks could be spicy if there is some soul charge. As long as you can get like,
I think they might have a great
one or two units as soul charge. Say again?
I think they have a grade 1 that slides the soul, like a lot of clans do. You know, there might be something in there. I think it was.
There's another one besides the Starvader card. Then that's probably what should be played.
Yeah, I guess you just look through all the lists and it's like, oh man, does this card go into my soul? Okay, I play this. Oh, and it requires me to play this other like weird sub-clan? Okay, I guess we do that, because, you know, you can mix it, you don't have to play. Because Chaos can't be played purely, and then most of the other non-Messiah builds can't really be played pure either, because they're not as good. So if you mix them together, it should be pretty reasonable, I would say. But Jonathan's been pretty quiet over there. Have you got any thoughts, Sean?
No. You guys have hit it on the money. Like, I'm actually, while you guys are doing that, I've been skimming through every past set list right now, looking for like I was already thinking about it. I was like, what cards can I put? Because the first thing I thought of was a counter charger. So I'm skimming through every single card that's in V format for Stargate. I'm just trying to find I'm just brainstorming what cards will work together.
They have like some options, but I guess they don't have as gifted of a card pool as a Royal Paladin.
Like it's its biggest flaw right now. It's just, I mean, it's some point within the next few weeks. I would assume there'll be a couple more cards revealed. But like, there's still a good skeleton with the 3 cards we have already.
Because I think each clans only getting 3 cards in the box. Yeah, I was thinking about that too. I thought there was gonna be like one other card that was gonna be like some kind of hybrid support for it and Messiah, but I think it's just these 3. But I think they were getting some support coming up soon. So if however, yeah, because it's a new year, so everybody should be getting support soon-ish. So I guess we'll see then, because if they get even like one card that really synergizes with it, that's all Chaos needs. You know, they get like some grade 1 that's just like, oh, when you, I don't know, draw a card, move this unit to this soul, give a card plus 5,000, something silly like that. It's like, seems bad, but just because of the fact that it goes to soul is all you really need to make your deck cohesive, you know? It has just a little resource issue, so you find something that can help you manage your resources, and then you might be all set up, you know?
Yeah, if they can give me even one unit that'll get like one extra unit that will do that, like, I'll like it pretty good with card I just found in the pool. It's called Cauldron Wing. I feel like somebody just brought it up before, but I just wanted to reiterate to make sure. It's not bad, but like it works more so with Harmonics and Messiah. It says if it's on the rear guard or Vanguard and you have a locked card, you just counterblast, soul blast, you lock it. You soul blast, lock it, and use countercharge. But that's still such a steep cost for the countercharge because I'm losing beautiful soul. That
yeah, you're kind of like it's less like resource gaining and more of like resource conversion. You know,
trading,
the classic Shushu problem. Like, in order to gain a countercharge, you have to soul blast, and in order to soul charge, you have to counterblast. The classic.
Yeah, as soon as it made me give up a soul, it's like I have to exclude this for now. Well, not for now, like in general. At least if it's with ChaosBreaker.
Yeah, I think
because it's funny.
Messiah itself.
I'm just looking at it towards like Rhys kind of knows how like I pick my brain at these kind of things, but like this first time I've ever brought it up with him, it's just like I'm looking at, let's say you have like 5 open damage. I always like to assume in a game that on an average you'll go through 2 heal triggers, so you always have 7 damage to work with. I'm trying to calculate what counter blasts are going to be used in that matchup, and like I'm so hard.
Yeah, because
although I loved it like when there was like these brainstorms getting like they get the juices going.
Oh yeah, it's a good feeling because normally you're sitting here like, well, Vanguard, so boring, game requires no thinking, so lame. But then you get opportunities like this, and you get to spend all of your time, like most of the skill in this game, honestly, well, not most of it. I'd say like 40% comes from deck building, you know? There's, well, maybe even more, honestly. Because so much of it is based on those like little micro decisions. Every little card matters, and you can have a lot of time to think about why you're running each card at what number and whatnot. It gives games like this the opportunity to sit around and like marinate, I guess, in the back of your head. So that even if you're not like actively chewing on it, it's like sleeping in the back of your head. Like, you know, like you play a mystery video game, and even after you go to work the next day, you're still thinking about, you're chewing on it in the back of your head, like, how did that guy kill this guy? You're sitting over here thinking, what possible way can I find to rework my attack pattern that costs 1 less counterblast so I can do this for whatever. It's a nice feeling.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. Like that 40%, that sounds like the sweet spot number right there.
Yeah, it's a little computing right there. I was like, I wouldn't say like half, but like a little less, because there's a lot of little micro decisions you make in the battle phase too that, you know, like it doesn't matter. Like the correct decision is often hidden by the result that you get. Like whether or not your damage was a trigger or not counts a lot, of course, but it doesn't actually factor into whether or not your decision to guard or no guard the attack was correct. It's just whether or not it was good or bad in that instance, you know? So a lot of people would miss that sort of stuff.
Yeah, the change in that change in the micro decision is the difference in that 5 or 10% of like the deck building. To I could just throw this in there. I like where this is. I kind of like where like if this is like the set with ChaosBreaker. I like where it's gonna go with these next few months. I think it's really gonna emphasize more on the deck building. You know, like I think it might hit close to that 50 mark. If it's not there, maybe close to it.
Yeah.
Like it definitely gives me a good like positive hope going into the summer.
Oh yeah, because every time they just hand you a deck and you're like, there was no I didn't make any decisions. I just ran a bunch of 4-ofs and like threw in a 1-of of something, and here it's a deck of cards. It does things. You run crits and you turn things sideways and blah. Standard. But every now and again in standard you get to actually think about your deck building decisions. It's great.
Yeah, I feel like we had a lull period where it was just, I think every deck kind of like went through this flowchart phase. I'm kind of glad we're kind of deviating away from that for now.
Melody, he was flowchart.
Hey, you said it, not me.
So boring.
At first, my deck felt like it was a flowchart deck, and then I started toying around with it and settled on something that was more my style. Only
Wait,
to log on.
which deck of yours? Which deck of yours? Because I know you're between one or two decks. Just want to make sure.
Right now, as far as usable decks I have 3, which is probably a record in the same meta. I don't think I've ever had this many.
I've never seen you with more than 2 consistently at the same time.
Yeah, like even when Nouvelle was out, it was like what? Nouvelle and like back in G era, like before G era actually, it was like Nouvelle and I want to say Narukami. No, Gold Paladin. I actually had a Platinum Ezel deck for a while.
Oh yeah. Whew, that was like ago. Man, time flies.
Those were the days. I miss G-Era.
Now I'm just like one Yasui away from having 4 playable decks, and it'll be all 4 of them. Well, 5 if you count my premium deck, but yeah.
But you know what the greatest thing about how your primary deck, and I'm going off. Well, sorry, the primary deck. I mean by like Kagero, because I've pretty much known you for 10 years with that at this point. It's just like you have the deck with the greatest flow chart that requires the strongest micro adjustments, and that's like with or without it being a flow chart deck. It's had one of the steepest curves for like being able to adjust your little micro plays like here and there.
I would say that it's
small. You say?
It's definitely like one of those easy to learn, hard to master decks because playing it is extremely straightforward. Not even gonna try to disguise and say it's a high skill cap deck. Well,
it has a very high skill floor and a very, very high skill ceiling. Like you play it and it's hard to do terrible, but it's very, very difficult to take it up a notch. Because all the little things you do in order to improve on it are not obvious. They're very subtle things that you have to do in order to make it all work out properly.
Like knowing what's a counterblast, knowing what's a soul blast, knowing what you want to recycle with Tord Cannon.
Which, of course, I guess is like with every deck has its depth and whatnot. But Kagero, I guess, will reward you a little bit more for your depth. And
you can also be punished a lot more. Yeah, you can be punished very severely for not playing it optimally.
Oh, yeah.
Like, if you just go, I'm just going to go swing for 3 attacks, congratulations, now you have no defense, and you're going to get reamed. Yeah. It's one of those decks that's easy to put together, easy to understand, but when it comes to truly manipulating the deck to your will, that's a little harder because it really depends on your knowledge of your matchup, your knowledge of probability, which, to be completely honest with you, is something that Crespo actually helped me understand to the point where we were both doing like calculations on the fly in local tournaments. Like, okay, there is like 20% chance roughly of me hitting a trigger. I'm gonna no guard and get rewarded for that.
Exactly. It's a very overlooked skill. I think that by Crespo's, that would be you, right, John? Just for our viewers at home.
Yeah,
you guys must have had some good times with the maths. But as you saw, I did some quick math on the fly. I was able to be like, man, there's 12 targets in the deck. You're usually on that top 5. Well, 11 really, because you have it itself on the board. On your check, after you've gotten most of your deck out, you are quite likely to hit there. But it's not guaranteed. I could pull up an actual calc real quick. Assuming...
To be honest, because of how long I've been playing like Dodex and how much time I had before it released, I am way more proficient with that deck than I am with Narukami. Narukami kind of feels like I'm like treading water. And it's weird because the deck it's built pretty well. Like my particular build, I use 4 of each Vanquisher, and then I use 3 Jaggy Shots. Only because between Jaggy Shot, Rock Climb, and then Vanquisher itself, you just don't have enough targets to bind from your hand. And the real struggle for me has been weighing out whether I even still want to play Phoenix. because Phoenix could be an attack extender, but at the same time, I've been looking back at the Desert Gunner.
Mm-hmm.
Name escapes me. The one that soul charges if you've bound a card.
I think I know one. But like, how could you not play Phoenix at all? Like, you have to play like at least 2, like bare minimum.
There's no space in this deck. It's so difficult. Like,
I don't know, Rhys. You just said the magic words. You said like there's no space. I was like, hey, give me that deck. I can find room.
Yeah,
I've always found room.
There's usually a way. I just redid the math. I was actually a little underestimating, assuming that you haven't seen any Chaos cards or Starvader cards. It's more likely at 80%. But if you've seen one other than it, it's up at more like 77 as it goes off. And then as your deck thins and whatnot, the odds stay up in the high 70s-ish, which is not bad, honestly. I would have expected that card to hit a little less. That's why my original estimate was at 70. And I thought I was highballing it too. But no, I was low.
Nah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, big maths.
So one of the reasons why I've been thinking about Bajan is because of the Dragon Dancer promo, which we haven't gotten yet. It is Dragon. Who freaking knows?
Bushi and English promos are a joke, man.
I really wish they'd just do like they'd release it the same way they do in Japan. Like, hey, this comes out of this event, we'll have it too, and not give us something completely different, because that's what keeps our meta somewhat different from Japan.
Yes, these little promos.
Don't get the promos. Us not getting the promos on time really does mess with things.
Like Melody Grade 1 promos. It's not a big deal, but the fact that I don't have the option to run them annoys me.
Exactly, and it's the same thing with Shiranui. There's a Shiranui promo I would love to play in place of this Grade 1 rare I'm using, but I'm probably never going to see it.
I mean,
the Murakami promo is Dragon Dancer Barca, and its skill is Auto Rearguard Circle. Standard Grade 2 9k is all excel. Auto Rearguard Circle. At the end of the battle, it attacked. If your Vanguard is Grade 3 or greater, cost Soul Blast 1 and bind a card from your hand. Draw a card. Your opponent chooses one of his or her back row rearguards and moves it to an open front row rearguard circle. So this is the card that's got me thinking about running Bajan again.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to Soul Blast, drop a Bajan out just to get an additional attack, and it'll be a free attack. Like 100% free skill.
That's pretty nice. So,
in addition to pulling back a rearguard, giving Jaggy Shot and Rock Climb more options to bind, along with Chatra.
Yeah, definitely a must run if it ever does come out in English.
And I think that if that comes out, I'd need to play that over Voltex Shred, and then at that point, Phoenix is like one of those. All right, well, do I really need it anymore?
Yeah. I mean, I think you do, though. I think you do. It's just so good.
Well, here's my counter argument. In terms of cards that actually bind from the board, there are not as many as you would think. It's just Vanquisher, which only works on Vanguard, Rock Climb, which only works on Rearguard, and Jaggy Shot, which works on either, but you would never want to ride Jaggy Shot.
I don't think none of those activation conditions, I guess, required zones aren't exactly a problem. You know, it's a Vanquisher deck.
No, the problem is that Phoenix only comes back if a card is bound from the board, not bound from your hand.
Isn't that what you just... Never mind.
Well, no, Phoenix itself, like, I wouldn't be able to bring back Phoenix if I'm worried about attack extension, is what I'm saying. So,
yeah, but it's less about... I mean, the attack extension on Phoenix is nice, but the fact that it just is a free card is a really big deal. And especially when you don't have very many grade 1s. I've
always been struggling with. That's the exact thing I've always been struggling with, because I play the Grade 1, the Grade 3 Searcher. I play... not Rock Climb, Chain Bolt, because Chain Bolt, when you play it on Vanguard, searches for Vanquisher. So those two you have to play in order to keep your deck consistency.
You don't necessarily need both. I guess you could do like a 3-3 split, a 4-2, something like that, you know?
The thing is, though, you want Vanquisher to hit relevant numbers. And if it's swinging for 35, that's always going to be better than it swinging for 30. You know,
significantly.
Yeah,
it's a big going from 30 to 33 is a big deal. It means the Force players can't just drop a 20k shield on you. Well,
and that's exactly why I play 4 copies of it, because like once you have it behind your Vanguard, you know that's going to be one relevant attack, whether you use your booster the first time or use it the second time.
I think you can get that to 3. Because it's a Vanguard booster. You don't want to run Vanguard boosters at 4. You want to see it, but you don't really want to see 2, you know? Well, I guess if you damage check it, woo.
But you do want more ways to be able to search for your full Brontos.
Yeah, but you got your full Bronto. Does it?
Full Bronto is the
yeah, it searches Vanquisher, and does it search Vanquisher, full Bronto, and what else? Just those, or?
Yeah, those are the only. Well, the grade 3 searcher will search for all of your grade 3s, but Chain Bolt will search for both Vanquishers
on the top
because
7.
Yep.
Oh yeah, it was one of those. Okay.
And it calls out, but it's only when it's played on rear guards. I mean, it's only when it's played on Vanguard that it gets a search. But from your hand, if you bind it, it calls itself out with no detriment.
Yeah, I suppose.
It doesn't have Bajan's downside where you have the. Because you want to just be able to keep swinging, because you could drop it out, and if your opponent hit a damage trigger, all right, so now they're at 23, and you're also at 23. You can still swing, or you can wait until you ride in a full Bronto, and then you'll be 33 as a grade 1, 33 with Chop Throat. You just have these ridiculous scales.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons I liked playing Bajan. I did cut Bajan to put in Chain Bolt, because that's, what made sense at the time. But having 12 cards that when I bind them from hand come back to the board, those are free cards too.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. It's like, I guess if it's doing the similar role with Phoenix, where it's a free card, and if you can't get the multi-attack extension, I suppose it's fine. I haven't been playing it, so I guess I shouldn't critique you too much for taking the Phoenixes out. It's just, man, that has to be one of the last things you cut, right? So I guess you really are tight for space.
Yeah, it's really hard, because you don't want to cut Jagged Shot
no, of course
down to less than, like, I have it at 3 only because I'd rather have more shield value.
I do hate to cut you off, but we can only talk about Narukami for so much on our Link Joker episode, which is about to come to a very, very sad closing. We have to let everybody go at some point, and John too. But before we go, John,
we kind of did run out of stuff for Link Joker really quickly, I guess it's just because they only released 3 cards.
It's because we're not Link Joker experts. We didn't sit around building a deck. We built a Narukami deck together instead of we tried. We got some progress, but before we go, we didn't give John too much of a chance to introduce himself, because we needed to get right into the conversation. But if John, I'm sure you'll be back one day. So let's do an exit introduction. Whatever. Is there a fancy word for introducing yourself as you leave?
I guess this will be a little bit of a outro.
Something like that. I guess.
So I guess just a little bit about myself.
Yeah. When did you start playing Vanguard? All that stuff.
All right. So, Rhys is loving this because it's like it has to do with him. So, guys, my name is Jonathan. Last name's Crespo, but obviously, you guys can call me Crespo. It's just straightforward, easier to remember. For Vanguard, I've probably been around it for. This is actually going on year number 12. I got into it towards the end of 2011. No, I was playing in the summer when one of my friends introduced me to Rhys.
Well, year 12 sounds like that sounds like ground floor. I'm pretty sure I've been playing since the game started, so that's about 12 years-ish. So I think you're kind of on the ground floor of the whole thing, yeah.
Yeah, because I've a friend of ours, like he let me the Nova Grappler deck when it was in Japanese, and I picked up the cards and I put them down because I was like, I'm not gonna remember any of this. Although, but it was still I still make sure that counts because I basically had the understanding of the game by then. So I kind of just stopped in September. I came back in December from set 1 release, and I've pretty much just picked up from there. And so it was that point. It was I got to know Rhys a little better, and then honestly, the engines were rolling. Me and Rhys were playing for a good while. While he was in New York. And man, we had some good games and good tournaments back then. Oof, I miss the OG days of that.
I guess that you guys really are the OGs. I'm glad to have some fellow OGs to hang out with nowadays. Too many of those new school standard only players. And I'm like, you guys don't even know what stand triggers are.
Looking back at it, I was terrible when we first started playing. I won tournaments, But it's just like looking at myself as a player now and how I look at the game and looking at how I looked at it back then. It's just like, you rank amateur, be gone, peasant.
Yeah, you're like, wait, I won those tournaments? Oh my goodness, everybody else I was playing against must have either gotten sacked or was even worse somehow. Oh goodness, we were all quite terrible at the beginning, weren't we?
Yeah,
I was completely off. I don't think I won a tournament for like 4 years, and then we had that summer with Alfred being there, and then me and just Rhys kept like we were just doing well all the time.
I think like the community as a whole didn't like finish its growth until like the middle of like the limit break era, because like we as a community hadn't done enough math to decide which is objectively better, crits and draws, until then. And until you've done enough math to decide which of these two ethereal options is mathematically better, has your community really developed enough? So you have some weirdos like that in there. I miss Timmy Power Gamer, man. Those were the days.
The beautiful
and triggers.
I miss mine especially. Mine's banned.
Don't lie, Rhys. You know my deep like conditional love or unconditional love for an overgrappler. Like no, we can't have those back. No, at least not the G stand triggers. No,
those will never be back. But premium's always a good time with them.
No effect stand triggers. Those are the beautiful things.
Let me put this stand trigger back on the bottom of my deck, draw a card, and shuffle. Like what? No. Give us back effect triggers. We need those.
We do. They have Sentinel.
Give us. Well, I mean, like aside from those two.
The fair thing I think we can agree with is that,
ladies and gentlemen, crit triggers are bad. The crit sentinels are bad.
Oh, yes, the crit sentinels specifically are bad unless you're playing protect, but protect is bad. So there.
I refuse to acknowledge crit sentinels. I remember Rhys brought it up once to me, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm never looking up these cards." I still do not know a single crit sentinel. I was like, I have my draw sentinels over here. Back in early 2020, I'll keep myself here.
They are literally just 30k shields. They do nothing else.
Yep, they're just
aside from have Sentinel in the name, which will still fall into the same weaknesses as everything that shuts down Sentinels, like Waterfall.
Yeah, but it gets around heavy guard better, you know? Because if you had to heavy guard with like 2 PGs, they have 0 shields. You ended up having to discard 3 cards, you know?
Yeah, like it's a field day for protect, but I'm like,
yes, they are bad. You are correct. They are not the best. And if you are running them, it's usually for very specific options or for surprise, and you're running like 1 or 2 at the most. Because, man, some people. But I guess that's pretty much it then, right? No, anybody have any last thoughts on ChaosBreaker?
Honestly, I'm excited. I want to see what happens.
I can't wait to actually see what people are filling out. I don't think I'm going to hate it
this time around because I happen to be sitting on a deck that doesn't really care too much about it. Yeah, luckily.
I think most of us are getting like that. With a bunch of people having access to decks that can circumvent it, I think people should get a healthier appreciation for it than last time.
Yeah, I mean, people are just going to be salty about Lock being back, but you know,
standard
it would be
really
way worse if instead of retiring it down the card too, because then that would just be a double slap. Then I'd have a serious problem with ChaosBreaker.
Yeah, probably.
Like, not only can you bind a card can you lock a card from the top of the deck, but you bind it too, so I just never get to touch it. Obnoxious.
Super duper.
I think I have like just one final or two final thoughts.
Yeah.
Pretty simple ones. ChaosBreaker, the card by design should warp the metagame. It should be the card that the entire metagame is focused on for the next 6 months, and it's because of my segue into the second point of this. If you give that card even a third, or if you give that card another card that locks in any capacity or benefits the deck in any capacity, like, I mean, all the old players remember Omega locking, then that pretty much will it's going to force the whole game to define itself around it.
Yep, and it's going to be Vanguard reliant decks that are going to be the only ones that can deal with it.
Yeah, it's like remember I said that thing about Geese? Well, in Premium, in order to get around it, it was all about basically how you dealt with 0 damage, and if your deck had a way to play at 0 and you built that into your strategy, you were fine. Mm-hmm. So with Chaos, now that if it's becoming that central part of the metagame that everybody can build around and know is coming, it's not so bad. Because like once you know what you're up against, you're able to fight it for now until they get all those extra lock cards, and then you're just super screwed.
Oh, we did forget to talk about this.
Oh.
We only really spoke about, we briefly spoke about the Gurguit matchup for Chaos Breaker. What about Luard? The elephant in the room. We have to address that.
I thought I mentioned it a little bit. It would be a little difficult because they get like 5 gifts, and you're giving them in 2 turns. And then
you did. You mentioned it, but we didn't go like.
Yeah, not in depth.
I realized earlier. When I brought up gold, I wanted to talk more about it, but if and when there's a future chance, I hop back in with you guys.
Oh yeah.
I want to actually talk about like spread matchups because I know like before this, like I randomly brought up to Rhys about like 3 specific decks that we didn't even mention on here, that I actually thought would actually like shape the meta on top of Chaos Breaker, which I actually think just like it will just like completely change it in terms of like looking at it from a tier perspective.
Well, you could just drop that now, and then we can expand on it.
So just a simple thing. So the 3 decks I was talking about, and I told them, which is kind of funny to me. I said the 3 of them are kind of the decks that were basically sitting in the low tier or like a tier 2 right now. They were Grand Blue, Pale Moon, and Dark Irregular. I told them for the simple fact that like those decks aren't like field centric or field reliant on the board to sustain. So like Grand Blue, everything that comes back and forth from the discard to the field. So there's not too much worrying about locking, because the only card they're gonna be forced to have to play the grade 2 to like a force lock. And the same thing is like the same thing is basically with Pale Moon and Dark Irregular in that scenario. Pale Moon's gonna just like it's gonna swap in and out from the Soul, and Irregular basically all the cards they commit are going into the Soul. So like,
well, it depends on which build for Dark Irregulars though, because Chakra is rearguard reliant in the sense that that's the only way they get their multi attacks.
They don't. Well, they do, but they run this other card that can just push itself to the Soul to draw cards, so they can their Mirage strategy as well.
Yeah. So like I didn't look at it from the perspective of like specific cards, but it's more of just like each of the decks has like this singularity. Like they have this one single card that basically can just be Vanguard reliant, and nothing changes in the deck. Nothing changes the deck for how they're gonna approach the matchup like any other matchup.
Yeah,
it's just like they have that option and they're strong cards.
Exactly. Any deck that has the capability to play in Mirage mode, where they have no board, and then on their turn the board shows up and then it goes away at the end, is gonna do pretty well in a Chaos Breaker meta. Too bad Bermuda doesn't super do that anymore, but you can still kind of get away with it with Ange to an extent. But
I think
we'll talk more about that.
Shiranui bouncing. Yeah, Shiranui's bouncing makes it a Mirage deck. Yeah, bouncing and the going into the Soul.
Yeah, if you end your turn with no cards on board after attacking with some rear guards and whatnot, then you can classify yourself as a Mirage deck. And if any decks that we forgot about in Mirage decks, which I don't think we have, then know that those will be good. Yes. Then know that they'll be
feel free to mention those in the comments, and we will definitely expand on those as well. So we definitely do want your feedback.
Yeah, and we want more than just your feedback. Give us your questions and whatnot too. We'll read some. If we maybe I should if we get enough people who actually join our Discord, I'll have like a little Q&A thing. So like at the end of podcasts, we can read over some questions from viewers and whatnot, and do like a little Q&A thing. They can even be personal questions if you want to know more about us. Or they could be about the game, or you could ask, like, should I run 4 of this card? Or 3? And I'll be like, in what context?
Exactly, yeah. Like, we are definitely here for you to pick our brains. As you can tell, we've got longevity with the game. Yeah, we definitely want to be a resource to you guys. So definitely take advantage of that.
Oh yeah, I'm trying to make a super special resource for everybody, but my video editing skills are subpar. How does one create motion graphics? You tell me. But one of these days we'll have a very special, very, very special episode on the channel, which I hope everybody will stay tuned for.
Definitely.
But I guess with that little tease, I guess we should peace out then. Let everybody get some Z's, yeah?
Yeah, let's call it a night. Good night, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. We will definitely see you in the next one.
Yeah, see you in the next redraw, everybody. Bye.
Yeah, thanks for watching, guys.